Hello, everyone. I'm Nolan Myers, CEO of WGDP. We're building an end-to-end platform for cities to connect with residents, accelerate growth, and deliver responsive public services. I'm here today to bring you an update for our last 2-week sprint ending on April 15th. As always, I'll go through our goals for last sprint, progress we made against those goals, and what we plan to do on the next sprint. Before I dive in, though, I just wanted to say I hope everybody is doing well and staying safe and sheltered at home. It's been an interesting couple of weeks here where all of us have been entirely remote, and we intended to build a remote company from the very beginning. This week that has really, this last sprint, it's really paid off and been getting into the groove. So that's been it's been interesting and actually good sales pitch now that the rest of the world is going remote as well. So that's been great. So goals last sprint, we wanted to hit 117 weekly active users, increase the product velocity. We had a couple of major features that we wanted to roll out: in-app updates, in-app progress updates, and improved messaging. And we wanted to explore a few features, especially around COVID payments, sign-up flow for business registration. And then we had some recruiting goals as well. So I'll go in reverse order. First, at a high level, I want to talk about the overall goal for the company was to hit 117 weekly active users. We, over the last 2 weeks, averaged 127. So our weekly active user growth this last sprint was as we had targeted, and I'd say better than we expected. We had finished enrolling all of the users, and we still have a lot of first-time users. So this is the first time that we believe that a lot of our users are actually coming from recurring users. However, a lot of it's still driven by picking up the phone and dialing and calling and sending batch messages and various ways of driving users to the application. We don't know at this point how much is organic coming into the application, but also we also don't have a lot of reasons today, and certainly didn't at the beginning of the sprint, a lot of reasons why users would come in organically. So that's something that is a major focus, but in the meantime, very glad that we are staying on track with that goal. One note about usage, though, gate flow is down 20% in the last week. It held steady 2 weeks ago, but was down from about 70 to 50 in the last week. And we thought we had a scanner issue at one point, so we did a lot of diagnosis there, and fortunately resolved that it was something else. There was some issues with deleted users that was being reported as a scanner issue. But it is a little upsetting to see that gate flow is down, and we think that it's likely related to COVID, but it's also something we need to do a little bit of confirmation, or a little bit more confirmation on, before we will totally be comfortable with that. Second is people, and in this sprint, I am super happy to announce that Minza has joined us as a product manager, and you'll see her update in this sprint update. We're also finalizing an offer for a front-end engineer based in Pakistan, and we are still recruiting heavily for a senior back-end engineer. Nick has a lot more updates on that in his update. Then the third thing that I went through was explorations. I'm actually really thrilled that in this sprint our explorations actually shifted dramatically from what we had anticipated, because we got a lot of customer requests coming in. And I'll share a little bit more of that. Jay has a lot more detail around that in his update. But for me, the real thing was the customer council meeting that we had at the beginning of the sprint, and it was just a fantastic conversation about the progress that we made in Q1 and setting goals for Q2 and talking with our customers about that. And I think that has really brought a lot of momentum in this sprint, where we are now getting requests from our customer. And so all of our exploration this sprint, we did time tracking, some COVID response, and thoughts around income sharing agreement. But all of these are coming from customer requests. So let me share a little bit about what we went through in that customer council meeting. The first thing that we, or one of the slides that we talked about, were our highlights in Q1 and our lowlights in Q1. And here, the thing that I would say that we stressed from this was really the value of having boots on the ground. Our customer success managers were really the keys to our driving success in our first quarter. This weekly active user chart here is from a few weeks ago, and you can see that we brought on board our first customer success manager in January, and it's just night and day from before we had that customer success manager and to when we had customer success managers. And so boots on the ground has really proven to be the right strategy for being able to drive adoption and help users adapt to this new kind of paradigm. The other has been in-app messages, which we rolled out near the end of the quarter, but that was a very powerful feature, and notes in the application. And then having feedback loops in the app. This was one of the initial ideas for the strategy of the company, was that the idea that you should be able to give feedback very easily and quickly to your city. So a real highlight for Q1 was that we have that implemented in the app, and we're making progress against that vision. Some things that we learned in Q1 that were challenging was just inconsistent engagement with our customer, and sort of staying challenged there. I think having our customer success manager come on board really helped address that, but I think through the course of the quarter, that was something that we had to learn. And in many cases, we didn't have the velocity that we wanted on product, but that's why velocity was such an important theme in this sprint, and something that I think I feel really good about coming into this sprint. So the other thing that we did is really start looking at our roadmap, and I'm not going to go through all of this now, but I think just in terms of sort of getting a quick glimpse of where we are, it shows that while we had a pretty good Q1, there's a lot more on tap for Q2 that we're excited to deliver, and we have a lot more capacity in the engineering team to actually do it. So that's exciting. Coming back to this particular sprint goals then, and some of the other things that we did, we've furthered this boots on the ground strategy and actually embedded our customer success managers in with the Inkwashi team, and working on staff augmentation and just trying to help them wherever they need the help, with the idea that that's also going to be a great learning experience for us, and help drive product for us. And it's already paid off in that the explorations that we are doing this sprint were so much more on target in terms of actually hearing back from customers things they want. So let me share some of the highlights then of what we wanted to do product-wise. There were two things that we really wanted to focus on this sprint. We wanted to have in-app content so that we could actually start having a content marketing strategy with city residents or city clients. And then we wanted to have improvements to our messaging infrastructure to be able to have make that a little bit easier to use. So the highlight then of the in-app content is now this news card. And if you click in here, what we've done is we've actually created a whole content portal here. We're using a backend called MK Docs that allows us to basically publish lightweight markdown directly into the Inkwashi app. And we've been experimenting with a few different types of content just to see what it is and what will be most interesting to clients of the city. So we started by just sharing our last feature release from last sprint, and put something in here that clients can see about what we're working on. Second was gate access policy, and this turned out to be really valuable even during the sprint. We wanted to make some updates here. It took us all of 10 minutes to add a COVID update into the gate access policy based on a customer request. And then the thing that really drove a lot of usage in this last week was a survey. We decided to do a one-question survey, send it out to people, and just see what was most interesting to them in terms of next features: construction updates, account balance, map of Inkwashi, or connect with their Facebook account. Overwhelmingly, the response that we got back, 80% of the responses said construction progress updates were the thing that was most interesting to them. And so we actually rolled that out right away. So this is actually, don't pay too close attention to the content here because this is yet to be finalized. This is still a bit of a work in progress, but at least in terms of the flow, you can see that we have this rotating slideshow of pictures of some of the great updates that Inkwashi has done in the last month. And it's just exciting for us to see all the progress that the city is making, and exciting to be able to share that with clients and show them. We also did make a lot of progress on the Oh, not going to show you the big red graph yet. We did make a lot of progress on the messaging, and you'll see most of that in Olivier and Dennis's updates. But some of the highlights there, we now have read receipts, so we can tell when a message has been received and whether it's been read. We have search in the messages so that customer success managers can go through the message history and find the conversation that they were talking about, and an ability to send a batch message where we sent out 160 messages all at once, asking people to take the survey, and that turned out to be a very valuable content strategy. So on top of that, those were the goals for the sprint. That's what we aimed to accomplish. We actually got done quite a bit more, and this is something that I'm really excited about, just the momentum that we're getting both with customer requests and in terms of our own product velocity. I'd say the biggest area that we rolled out was a lot of work on analytics, where we now have a logbook that allows us to show who are the new users that have been enrolled in the last week, and that's also something that came directly from a customer request, and an engineering dashboard that Nicholas built out that helps us to monitor our velocity and stay on top of things. So I'll let you see that in his updates. We had one other analytics style update that we went through around seeing where our scans are coming from, whether they're print or digital IDs. And for the last 2 weeks, we started tracking data on whether the way the application works is that in order to get into the gate, you show your phone, and it has a QR code that the guard then scans in to let you in at the gate. And so over the last couple of weeks, we've had about 80 check-ins at the gate. And we now, for the first time, are able to see where our scan's coming from, whether that is on the digital or print. And unfortunately, it shows that a lot of people are using print cards. And this is something that we need to dive into more and understand where that's coming from. It's a little bit disappointing, but it also helps us understand, I think, or at least my initial interpretation of this is that people have a preference for the physical card and that printed card over the digital. And so I think that gives us an opportunity to better understand if in fact that is true, and if it is, why it's true, and then see if we can start driving more behavior to the app. On the plus side, it also means that all of the people who are scanning in with print scans are also potential weekly active users if we can convert them to start using their digital devices. And then the final thing that we got done this week, actually related to that, the diagnosis that I was talking about at the beginning of the update, where we were trying to make sure that we were understanding why gate access had slowed down. We discovered we actually got our mobile device management solution rolled out to the guard phones in a much more thorough way than it had been done before. We had some lightweight stuff, but the mobile device management allows us to keep those phones on lockdown and just make sure that we're not using up minutes by going to YouTube or Facebook, and those minutes that are very valuable to keeping guards engaged. But the nice thing is now we actually have an ability to do a remote view where we can log into a phone remotely and be able to do diagnostic and resolution of the guard phone even while I'm sitting here in San Francisco. So we got that deployed, and that was a very, very exciting update for us, and gives us a lot of capability in terms of resiliency and diagnostic capability. So that's it for this sprint. Goals for next sprint, we want to come back. So our weekly active user goal keeps rising. So if you look at sort of where we are here, this sprint we're at 127, and next sprint the goal is to get it up to 148. In order to get there, I think one of a few of the themes that we're going to need to be thinking about are really a lot more on the analytics side, especially around understanding recurring users, understanding organic use of the application versus usage that's being driven by outbound messages or outbound calls that our customer success managers are making, and also understanding better where in the application that their users are going. And so Nicholas talks a little bit about getting Google Analytics set up in the application so that we can have more fine-grained understanding of what users are going to and how they're using it. That'll of course be paired with more content marketing, which we can roll out very quickly. But we also want to do some design updates and just take a look at the design of the application and see if we can start making it a little bit easier to use and a little bit more coherent in terms of how it's all coming together. And then try to roll out a few features that we explored this sprint around time management, so that employees that are working on the site can check in and check out with their manager or with their foreman, and being able to deliver in-app notifications or batch messages through a UI as opposed to on the back end, so that we can make that a faster, more streamlined approach that customer success managers can send updates. We're also thinking a little bit about the selection process of who to send those updates to. It's interesting. We had a real aha moment today when we realized that actually sending the message is not nearly as hard as figuring out who to send the message to. And so that's actually where we're focusing our exploration around the batch messaging first. And then finally, some more explorations. We'll be looking at payments, event registration, and more around income sharing agreements based on input from customer and things that we want to do to help accelerate growth of the city. That's it for today. End of sprint updates for April 15th, and I'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Thank you.